In 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt was exploring ancient site in Turkey when he noticed a limestone block sticking out of a hillside. The locals called the area Potbelly Hill, or Göbekli Tepe in their language. Schmidt and his team started digging around the limestone, and they had no idea that what they would find would change everything we know about human history. We've all been taught the official story. The Stone Age hunter-gatherers emerged from the last ice age and eventually discovered farming. These people organized into settlements in Mesopotamia and the subcontinent. And then, about 7,000 to 6,000 years ago, the first civilizations were born: ancient Sumer and Indus Valley. Before them, humans were considered primitive, with their most advanced technology being stone tools. But at Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists uncovered 4 man-made stone enclosures covering 100,000 square feet of land. But here's the problem. The earliest parts of Göbekli Tepe were built 11,600 years ago. That's 6,000 years before the ancient Sumerians and Harappans were doing anything. This discovery didn't make sense at all. 11,600 years ago, the Ice Age ended. According to mainstream archaeology, humans at that time were mostly following animals for food. They set up temporary camps, or at best, built mud huts. They weren't building huge permanent stone structures. They didn't have the knowledge, tools, or skills to do that. But then archaeologists discovered something surprising at Göbekli Tepe. The more they dug, the more things didn't add up. They found that the stone enclosures were all built at once. This means people lived at the site for a very long time. How long? Well, the newest structure is about 10,500 years old. That means Göbekli Tepe was occupied for over 1,000 years. Now, 1,000 years might not seem like much, but in human history, that's a very long time. To give you an idea, the Roman Empire rose and fell in about the same time. As the excavations continued, things got even stranger. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just thrown together by a primitive Stone Age people. It was built with a plan, for a purpose. The 4 enclosures are circular, ranging from 20 to 200 feet across, and all are aligned with the star Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Many ancient cultures built temples aligned with Sirius, but not 12,000 years ago. Yet, here it was. Over 1,100 years, Sirius's position in the sky shifted. The builders of Göbekli Tepe created new enclosures to follow this shift. To build these monuments, they needed knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. This project also required skills like community planning, administration, and labor division. But according to big archaeology, people of that time didn't have these skills. Yet, here it was. Inside each enclosure, there was a T-shaped pillar, some of which are 16 feet tall and weighing up to 10 tons. So far, 43 pillars have been uncovered. Only 5% of the site has been excavated. Recent scans have revealed 15 to 20 more structures buried beneath the main site, with over 200 additional stone pillars. Now, about those stone pillars, there's something very strange about them. The pillars are carved with images of humans, animals, and human-animal hybrids. There are foxes, lions, scorpions, snakes, wild donkeys, gazelles, and more. The carvings are very advanced. But here's the weird part. The oldest pillar has the most intricate designs. As the site gets newer, the carvings become less detailed. It's as if the technology and craftsmanship suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Somehow, 7,000 years before Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza were built, and 6,000 years before writing was invented, humans were capable of building this. Where did they get this sudden knowledge? Well, maybe the Anunnakis? I know, the answer is controversial. Maybe the human story doesn't start at the end of the last ice age, as big archaeology wants us to believe. Maybe before the last ice age, there was an older and much more advanced civilization on Earth. This civilization could have taught the primitive hunter-gatherers about mathematics, engineering, and astronomy. They might have even told them to pay close attention to the sky. These ancient people could have shared their story about the time before the Ice Age, when this civilization thrived. Pillar 43 in Enclosure D has become known as the Vulture Stone. This stone tells the story of these ancient people. Unfortunately, it also tells the story of the end of the world. The Vulture Stone is engraved with images of star clusters, like constellations. Pillar 43 points to the constellation Scorpius. Now, different cultures might have different names for constellations, but the drawing on the Vulture Stone clearly shows a scorpion. When Scorpius aligns with the night sky, all the other carvings fall into place, each representing a constellation. A sun is carved at top of the vulture's wing, showing its position in the sky relative to the stars. If we use the sun as a guide to align the constellations, it reveals a star map, and every star map is a date stamp. For example, at the Hoover's Dam in the US, there's a carving on the floor that shows the exact position of the stars as seen from the location on the day the dam was completed. Why did they carve that into the dam's floor? So that if someone finds it thousands or millions of years from now, they'll know the exact date it was made. The Vulture Stone at Göbekli Tepe shows a unique arrangement of stars that could only be seen from the place during a specific 100 years window, between 10,900 to 10,800 BC, about 13,000 years ago. But here's the thing. This is over 1,000 years before Göbekli Tepe was even built. This means the tablet is telling a story of something that happened much earlier. It's a story about a time period known as the Younger Dryas and a terrifying event that changed the Earth. The Ice Age lasted for about 2.6 million years. During this time, most of the northern part of the world was covered by thick sheets of ice, and about 30% of the Earth's surface was under glaciers. We can find description of this time in Hindu epic Ramayana as well. This might sound bad, but for humans, it was actually a good thing. Even though the climate was cold, it wasn't freezing everywhere. Places like the subcontinent, Africa, and the Middle East were still warm, full of plants and animals. And the climate was stable for 2.6 million years. It was during this time that modern humans, Homo sapiens, evolved. We were born in the Ice Age and we thrived in it. But then the climate started to change. The temperatures began to rise and the ice sheets slowly melted. Sea levels rose, which must have worried the human civilization. But they were powerless to stop it. However, around 12,900 years ago, the Earth suddenly became cold again. Not as cold as before, but cold enough for humans to survive in the familiar conditions. People knew how to live in these conditions. But 1,000 years later, this period of normalcy ended abruptly and violently. The ice sheets melted, but this time it happened within weeks, not over a million of years. There was no time for civilizations to adapt. This was the cataclysmic event that changed everything. Scientists have found evidence of this disaster in ice core samples from Greenland and Antarctica, in sediment cores of the bottom of the lakes and oceans, and in organic materials, they have been carbon dated. But there also is evidence of a catastrophe on the Vulture Stone, Pillar 43. The stone not only gives us the date, but also shows the impact of the Younger Dryas comet. At the bottom of the pillar, there's a carving of a headless man, symbolizing death linked to the date. There's also a snake coming from the south, which some believe represents 3 massive waves, possibly tsunamis, that we know occurred during this time. But Pillar 43 is only one part of the story. Pillar 56 depicts more of the Younger Dryas impact, showing crashing waves and fleeing animals. Those are frightening, but for me, Pillar 18 is the most sinister of all. It contains the only word found at the entire site, the word God. Pillar 18 in Enclosure D is focused on constellations we know as Aquarius. But when we take into consideration the pillar probably centered on Taurus when it was built. If that's true, we have a significant clue. The comet Encke, discovered in 1786, takes about 3 years to orbit the Sun. Encke is about 3 miles wide, not huge, but not small either. The thing is, it used to be much bigger, part of what scientists call a mega comet, about 100 miles wide and made of ice, glass, metal, and rock. Around 20,000 years ago, this mega comet broke up. Now, instead of one huge comet, we had millions of smaller ones, ranging in size from grain of sand to over miles across. When the Earth passed through this cloud of debris, the people of Göbekli Tepe would have seen it in a form of a firestorm of comets raining down from the Aquarius constellation, just as depicted on Pillar 43. You might call it a coincidence, but ancient cultures around the world carries the same memory, be it Mayans, Egyptians, Sumerians, or even Hindus. When the ancient site of Göbekli Tepe was discovered, it forced archaeologists to admit that they had seriously underestimated the technological abilities of early humans by about 5,000 years. They were hesitant to accept it though, because their funding often depends on them being right. So they didn't want to invest in searching for, say, a mummy in a pyramid that they believed wouldn't be there. But in 2019, more surprising news came out. Excavations began at Karahan Tepe, just 40 miles from Göbekli Tepe. Each study suggests that Karahan Tepe might have been settled even before Göbekli Tepe. And unlike Göbekli Tepe, which seems to have been built for a single purpose, maybe a place of worship or an observatory, Karahan Tepe shows clear signs of a well-organized society. There are different types of building at Karahan Tepe. Some might have been shops, homes, or food storage areas. They have found tools, grindstones, and many other objects here. These kind of artifacts haven't been found at Göbekli Tepe, which suggests that the two sites served very different social functions. These places existed at the same time, so it's possible that Göbekli Tepe was a religious center while Karahan Tepe was more like a residential neighborhood or even a shopping area. It's not just Karahan Tepe. There are at least 21 other sites in Turkey that are rewriting our understanding of prehistory. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into Karahan Tepe and explore these other sites that tell us about the world before the recorded history. We'll uncover how they fit into the puzzle of ancient past and what secrets they might still be hiding. So stay tuned as we continue this journey. This is Harry signing off. Stay curious.